everyone, this is Cindy Sam. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Startup Celebrity Show. Today we have an interesting person with us, and I'm sure you will find him as interesting as I have found with the conversations I've had with him. He's not he's not normal. He's the eccentric entrepreneur, but he's very interesting and he's actually very grounded, very, very spiritual as well. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Taylor. Taylor is actually from Oregon, and I'm from Singapore. He's in Oregon and we are doing this. So kudos to technology and kudos to Facebook because I really have to be very grateful for Facebook. If you for whatever reason dislike Facebook, then you are probably playing it the wrong way. And I'm sure Taylor has a lot of insights for you as well. So Taylor is the business wizard for eccentric entrepreneurs. He also has a group called the Eccentric Entrepreneurs, literally. He helps them design successful businesses using a combination of business, smart, and wealth. Ooh, nice. Wealth. Ooh, I have not heard about that. Wealth. Ooh, I've heard about woo. So how about you share with us, what does wealth woo mean?
So a lot of people, they'll use the word woo to describe spirituality. And so I thought I would just take that. Really it's about wealth magic. It's wealth spirituality. It's recognizing that there is a spiritual force to wealth and a spiritual force to money. As I tell my clients, money likes to move. That's one of the reasons why when you own a business, you've got to be willing to work with the spirit of money. You can't treat it as something that you push away from you. You've got to be willing to work with it and recognize that it's something that likes to move through the world. It's something that wants to manifest itself any number of different ways. And you just happen to be one of the mediums. And so one of the things that I do is teach my clients how to recognize that and how to consciously work with that so that they're working with it in a good way instead of in a bad way.
Sure. So I want to know, before you discover your wealth woo, what were you doing? What's your story and how did you become spiritual? Was it your story right from the beginning of time, or something happened to you and then you decided to just wake up, like most of us?
Well, I found my way to my spiritual path, which is magic. I found my way to that when I was 16. And, a big part of what helped me find my way to it was really just a feeling of trying to find answers to questions, which happens, at many times of our lives, but certainly when we're teenagers, that's the case, as I'm sure you can relate to as well. And so, I found my way to that because a friend of mine at the time shared some stuff that he was working on with spiritually, and I thought I would give it a try. And so I started practicing neo-shamanism and elemental hermetic magic and went from there. And then my life kind of went all over the place. I ended up getting a bachelor's and master's in English. I went partway through a doctorate program in literacy, rhetoric, and social practice before leaving because it wasn't a good fit. I was doing it for the wrong reasons, right? Sometimes we do stuff because we want to be safe. And what we don't realize is that we're giving up so much for that sense of safety, which really isn't all that safe anyway.
You almost became a doctor.
I almost became a professor, not like a medical doctor or anything like that. But then I left that and I went on and I became a technical writer for a while. But I realized that with technical writing that I had, it wasn't really a job, it was a contract. I would work for a few months here, a few months there. So I had all of the disadvantages of being self-employed and none of the advantages, right? Because there I'm always looking for work, but I'm not able to write off any of my expenses or do anything else. And so I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to make a living. I don't really even like doing this. And so then I found out about coaching and I got certified as a coach. And that was kind of the start of my approach to the wealth woo and integrating that into coaching my clients, because I realized that so many people have, so many business owners, but people in general have very negative ideas about money a lot of times. I mean, how many times have we heard people say, well, I don't really want money, or money's dirty, or whatever else. And what they don't realize is, they're keeping themselves in these small circumstances. Sometimes they're keeping themselves safe by saying, well, I really don't deserve this. I'm just going to settle for less.
So
Well,
when you talk about this spiritual and money, I want to just have your take on um, why do you think spiritual people have so much against money? You know?
well, part of that it really comes right down to the fact that if you look at the history of different religions, sometimes you see religions say, well, money is bad or the material world is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have that particular baggage come into play. And I think that really, for a long time, poverty was portrayed as a virtue. But
Mm.
let's be honest here. Being poor is not being virtuous.
Yeah.
Being poor sucks. I've been poor and I hated being poor. And when I got away from being poor, I found that I enjoyed my life a lot more. And it's
So
one
what
of
does
the reasons
money mean
why,
to you right now?
huh?
So what does money mean to you right now?
What I see, what I think of as money is I think of it as in a couple different ways. One, it's a spiritual force, just like any other.
So
I
you
don't
see, do
necessarily.
you see money as spiritual? I mean,
Oh yeah, I do. I do. I see it as a spiritual force of abundance. I don't necessarily worship it per se, but I believe that it's something to be recognized and appreciated and respected because it moves in our lives. I mean, we use money every day to buy food, to pay rent or mortgage,
mm-hmm.
pay utilities, to buy things that we want. It's a force in our lives. It's always going to be there, whether it's a credit card or a green dollar bill or whatever the color money is over in Singapore. It is what it is. It's there. It's something that we need, that we use every day. And the way that I look at the other aspects of it really is that ultimately what it comes right down to is in our lives we have a choice to manifest abundance, or we have a choice to manifest keeping ourselves safe,
Mm-hmm.
keeping ourselves poor. I want to live a bold life, and I found that when I was no longer poor physically, that it also changed how I approached the world, because suddenly mentally and spiritually I found abundance. And that's really why I think of money and really just wealth in general as a spiritual force, because it really opens the doors. When you think about it in this way, there are so many different opportunities you could have to explore your spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those opportunities require money. You want to buy a book, right? On a book by an author that you like, you have to pay money.
Right.
You want to go to a retreat, you got to spend money. So why should we push money away? Why should we treat it as something that we don't like, when in fact it's a means to an end? It's a means to allow us to manifest our life, and it's also a means to allow us to serve the world around us. Because when you have money, you're also able to devote more time toward coming up with those services and products that you want to share.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for me, that because I have that money, because I'm not worried about, how am I going to make ends meet, I'm able to focus more on doing the spiritual work and doing the other work that I've been called to do. Mm-hmm. And that way I'm able to serve my community. Mm-hmm. There's a great saying that Sam, this one guy, Sam has for the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs. He says that if you're not making money in your business, you're going out of business. And it's true. When you're not making money, you're going out of business. Well, here's the thing, folks. If you hate money, then you're going to go out of business, because you're going to find a way to sabotage yourself. But if you learn to love money and see it as a way to help you manifest your spiritual journey, just manifest your message, your creativity, and everything else, you're going to manifest more wealth in the world. And you're going to help other people come to a place of greater happiness and success. And I think that's part of what we need to be doing here. We want to manifest a better world for all of us, not just one of us, not just two of us, for all of us.
So that's great. I mean, I totally vibe with that. I get it. I've been poor before, and having no money is not fun. I mean, you have all these dreams and desires, and you just need that money that's to fulfill whatever dreams and desires that you say you want to have, right? And then of course, money is important. I have another question. When I was starting out, as a spiritual healer, friends would say, or you would hear people say, if you are doing God's work, then you shouldn't be charging. And it did affect me for a long time because, my God, it's true. If I'm doing God's work, then who the hell am I to charge? It should be free. And then I'm like struggling to pay my bills and, and I think this is a deep belief system for a lot of spiritual people. Like, I can't charge what I'm worth. Like, nobody's going to pay for my services and I'm doing God's work, then literally should be free, like a charity. But people forget charity. There is a big source of abundance behind the charity, to fund the charity fund, so that the people who the beneficiaries don't get to pay, right? So Taylor, what is your advice for people who are going through this phase? Like, you know what, I really want to charge, or because I'm doing God's work.
My advice.
How did you switch that flip? I'm sure you were like me.
Sure. Well, there was a time where I had some issues with that. And I read a really good book called The Millionaire Mind by T. Harvey Eker.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really like that. Here's the thing that I've recognized is that it's really a self-esteem issue. When you say that I'm not worth this, or you say that God or whatever spiritual force you believe in says that you shouldn't charge for X, it's really a self-esteem issue. It's really saying I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. So first and foremost, you have to go in there and figure out why you feel that way. And there's any number of reasons. I mean, I think it ultimately comes right down to we want to be accepted. But here's the thing is the highest form of acceptance is when somebody is willing to pay you for your services. They're willing to honor you. Now, I can tell you that I've gone into situations where I've compromised on that, and it didn't make me feel more spiritual. It made me feel less spiritual. It made me feel like I had given away an ethical and moral part of myself. And that really what I had done is I let God, I'd let the universe, I'd let the magic, I'd let all that down. I had taken away from that potent force within myself and my connection to the universe by not charging or by haggling, settling on a lower price. So my advice to people is really to look at it in this way. You have a certain amount of wealth that you can manifest in your life. And the only way, if you choose to manifest less than that, you are actually not serving the universe. You are not serving God. You are not serving any of those things. You are letting them down. And I know it sounds pretty harsh to say it that way, but I think sometimes you really need to take a look at that notion of, well, if you're spiritual, you're not going to charge, and say, well, no, if anything, I am connected to the universe, and I am being a medium for this. I am letting this flow out from me, and I deserve to be compensated for that, because that is part of the way that I am able to continue doing that work. Mm-hmm. And if you don't compensate me, I can't do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've had, so when I've occasionally had people say that in regards to some of the spiritual classes that I've taught. And I said, well, look, I've spent X amount of time putting this stuff together. I've spent X amount of time writing. And, you might think that it should be free, but I think I deserve that, because if I don't charge for it, you're not going to see it. And if you really want it, then it should be worth it. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. People will pay for something for what they think something is worth. When I was married to my first wife, we were publishing books, and we had our books at like $20. And she looked at some of the other books that were out there, and they were like, $12.99, $13.99, right? And she's like, nobody's going to buy our books. And I looked at her and I said, if they think it's worth it, they will buy it. And they did, because they recognized there was something about those books they wanted. And so it's true in general. If people think it's worth it, they'll buy it. So if you hear someone give you that old saw about how it's not spiritual to charge, they're not your client. You can just walk away. Because you know what? They're trying to take away from the universe. They're trying to take away from you.
I like that. How you brilliantly said they're taking away something from the universe. And I know so many people are sort of like afraid of the universe because of this karma thing going on, but there's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, think about it. You won't want to open your front door and invite people to come in and take your stuff. That's how it is if you don't charge your worth. So we've talked about how you feel about money. I mean, how did you end up with this term, the eccentric entrepreneur? I for a while, I tried to be a business coach that was a bit more straight-laced, if you will. But
And
you are, right? I mean, you are a business coach, aren't you?
I am a business coach, really, but I call myself the business wizard because you know what? Business coaches are a dime a dozen. And I'm not just a business coach, I'm a business wizard because of my spirituality and how I bring that into the work I do. I tried for a while to really fit in a certain way and everything else, but I realized that it didn't make me feel good about myself. And when I looked at my clients, I found that they all had something in common. They all, in one form or another, had interests that other people would consider eccentric, whether it was a spiritual belief and the particular way they chose to let that manifest in their lives, or it was a particular interest they had, whether they were what people would consider geeks or nerds or whatever. I don't care about any of that. What I cared about is the fact that that was something they felt passionate about. And whether they were manifesting it into their business or not, it played a significant role in their lives. And that's when I realized, you know what? I want to work with eccentric entrepreneurs. Because
what does eccentric mean to you?
So to me, eccentric means somebody who doesn't necessarily fit into mainstream society. They're not trying to dress to fit in. They're not trying to fit in. They're not interested in the usual things that people are interested in. Maybe they're not that much into sports or whatever else. Mm-hmm. What they're into is stuff that people consider weird and different, whether it's board games or it's spiritual interest or it's something else, or maybe they're extreme super fans. Like I know this one lady, she's a priestess, but she also really loves baseball and she's a super fan. And that to me, okay, that's eccentric right there. It may not be to other people, but the fact that how she will dress up and literally paint her face, that's an eccentric interest right there.
Like Edward Scissorhands. I mean, when I saw eccentric, it just literally reminds me of Edward Scissorhands,
Well, that's a good example right there too. So, it's just something that doesn't fit the notion of normal. And here's the thing, there are a lot of people who have what are considered eccentric interests. And so I realized, hey, that's my community. That's my tribe. And I want to serve that tribe. I want to help them succeed. I want to help them flourish. And so
they don't necessarily have to be spiritual, but they're just weird. Like they love to investigate worms, or investigate just not mainstream stuff, right?
Yeah, that can totally be the case. I will say though that the majority of my clients have some spiritual component in there. And mind you, I'm not saying that just because you have a spiritual interest, you're eccentric or weird, but sometimes people label other people that way. And you know what? I say, hey, why not just embrace that label of weird or eccentric and live it up to the hilt and enjoy it? Because you know what? It's fun to be weird. It's fun to have some eccentric interests.
Yeah. I know I'm like, I'm crazy, and my kids always say, are you crazy? And the normal people will get offended. But I'm like, hey, I'm crazy. If I'm not crazy, I wouldn't be here. If I'm not crazy, I wouldn't, survive this long. You need to be crazy, and it's okay to be crazy. It's cool to be crazy.
I love your craziness, Elise. I think you're awesome. I always look forward to seeing your posts every day on Facebook because you always have words of wisdom to share with people, and it's just such an amazing privilege to get to know you.
I'm eccentric too, I think.
I love your craziness, so you keep that up.
I thank you. So I think, eccentric is needed, crazy is needed if you want to succeed, because then you're just blending in like everyone else, and you don't want to blend in like everyone else, right? Then how can you stand out from the crowd? It's crazy. Like people want to stand out from the crowd, but they don't dare to be crazy, or they don't dare to be eccentric, which these two elements are so important to have a successful business.
You know what I discovered is that when I gave myself permission to just be my eccentric self, to be the business wizard, that's when my business started to really change and grow.
I have another question. It's like people are so caught up with like, oh my God, what should I call myself? Should I call myself a coach? To be honest, I'm not really vibing with the word coach. I'm not even vibing with the word mentor, healer, consultant, everything. I mean, you just play little parts of each role on a day-to-day basis. So, but coach is typically what people vibe with. But then again, I know there are a lot of people who don't necessarily vibe with the word coach. And here you are, I'm a business wizard. How did you come up with that? And how did you own that? Like when you came up with that, did you feel like, oh my God, a bit wonky with this? Or you just knew that this is it, love me or leave?
I just knew it was it. It was a total fit. And really, it was just taking my spiritual interest and combining them with my interest in business and saying, you know what? I really want to bring these together. For a while, I tried to compartmentalize them, kind of keep them apart. And instead, I realized, no, that's not what I need to do. What I need to do is bring them together. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to bring these together. I'm a business wizard. I'm not a business coach because you know what? Coaches are a dime a dozen. I'm a business wizard. And that's what I bring, because I look at people's businesses and I help, and I can take apart what they're doing and then put it back together better again. And it's like magic. So why not bring that into it? And so I just embraced it. And it's like I said, it was interesting because people really started to get interested and excited about that. And I found that I got more interaction that way than when I was just, I'm a business coach. Because, again, people think when they see business coach, they just kind of think someone who's like dressed up in a suit or whatever, they're going to go coach, but they don't really feel a lot of enthusiasm or interest because it's become such a common term that it's just like whatever.
So when you say like business wizard, do you introduce to the normal people, or do you introduce yourself to like the spiritual community where, okay, I've seen everything, so wizard is fine. I've seen priestesses, I've seen goddesses. So who do you introduce yourself to?
I introduce myself to everyone as the business wizard. I mean, here's the thing: if you're going to take on a title, then you better own it, and you got to own it in every way in your life. You can't be ashamed of it. If there's even one sense of shame there, then you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out why you feel that shame. And maybe you just need to spend some time with that feeling of shame and actually figure out what's going on there. For me, I'm proud to be a business wizard. And if people have a problem with that, well, they can go take a hike, because the fact of the matter is I'm not going to change who I am in order to fit what they need. Because if I do that, I'm not helping them anyway, and they're not going to want to do business with me. Sure. Think about it this way. If you've gone and you tried to do business with somebody, but you weren't being authentically you notice how those people end up, no matter how polished you are, how they end up leaving? Well, the reason why is because they know on some level that something doesn't fit. And if they don't leave and they become your client, they usually become a problem client, because it's just not the right fit. You got to vibe with your tribe. That's something that you said in the Facebook group marketing and in your class that you had on that. And it's absolutely true, Elise. You got to vibe with your tribe. You got to believe in your tribe. And part of that means that you've got to show up for your tribe, and you've got to be willing to do it everywhere. You're going to come across people that aren't part of your tribe. But if you're not willing to claim your title to those people, then what makes you think you'll be able to claim it to the people that are your tribe? Mm-hmm. You never know. Those people who aren't your tribe might still send someone your way because they know that, they're not a good fit, but they know someone else who is. Mm-hmm.
So I know that, asking from this space, there are a lot of spiritual people coming out of the closet. They're not I used to be like this too. I was so ashamed of my spiritual gifts. I don't want to tell people that I'm spiritual, but now, hey, I am the founder of the Spiritual Entrepreneurs and I own it, right? Like, love it or leave it. And so the same thing with you, Kayla, love it or leave it, right? But what about those people who are really shy? How do you, suggest or have any tips for them to come out the closet slowly and introduce to the world that is actually safe and own like business wizard, like you're the goddess or like, priestess? How do you suggest that they overcome that emotional state so that they actually own their title and they don't have to be like a coach or whatever they,
Well, first and foremost, I tell them to just start thinking about the people that they actually serve and what excites them about serving those people. And then ask themselves, okay, if I know this, who is it that I am to these people? And they might even ask those people. I've gone and I've talked to my clients before and I'm like, well, who do you think I am? How do I show up to you? Because your clients in some ways know you better than you do. Mm-hmm. Because they're not in your head, they're outside of you, so they're going to have a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I say draw on that perspective. Mm-hmm. Let that guide you. And if you feel shy, if you're like, well, I'm shy or whatever else, that's okay. You can accept that you feel shy in that moment. But here's the thing: I don't know many shy entrepreneurs. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the entrepreneurs I know aren't shy, because sometimes they are. But what I do know is that they are able to put that shyness aside. In fact, I know this one guy, his name's Mark Hyatt. He formed this networking thing called Your Networking Universe, and he is one of the shyest people I know. But you wouldn't know it at a networking meeting, because he took that shyness and he said, you know what? If I'm going to go out there, I'm going to take it and I'm going to actually use it to motivate me. I'm going to use it to motivate me to push out there and meet people. So, you can take that feeling of shyness and you can actually turn it into fuel to help you go out there and manifest your vision of the world.
Yeah.
So trust that. Draw on your shyness. Draw on your fear and whatever else, and say, okay, yes, it's here, but I can either let it hold me back or I can use it to propel me forward.
Absolutely, for sure. So I know you have a lot of gems for us, but I know this is like, people are like, what are you talking about? So what I want to say is, forget about what Taylor has said earlier on. If there is one strategy, one tip, one tool that you want people to take away from you today, I'm like, then what have I been listening to for the past 25 minutes, But hang on, sometimes we just need one tool, one strategy to just help us cross the fence. And what would that be for you, Taylor?
My one strategy or tool is embrace who you are full-heartedly and let that speak to the universe and to the people around you. Let your soul sing, because when your soul sings, it will bring to it the right people that connect to that song.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And in another word, own it. Own your power, own who you are. I mean, I don't have a perfect accent and I don't speak perfect English. I'm still doing it. I don't care. Sometimes I tell people, I don't teach English. I teach people how to make money. So live with my bad English, and they're okay.
Well, I don't think your English is bad. I think you're perfect just the way you are. So I love your accent. So there you go.
Thank you. And Taylor said something which is absolutely right. We are in our head all the time. We are in our head so much, and we are the worst critique ever. We are the worst. I don't know, we abuse ourselves so much. Sometimes we really need to step out of our own head and actually ask people what they think about us, how they feel about us. I mean, if you get negative comments, don't take that personally. But what he's saying is so true. You need to see yourself from someone else's perspective, and you actually find that reality is so much kinder than you think it is, and it's just so much kinder than you treat yourself. Right?
That's absolutely true. And you know what? If you do get some negative comments, maybe that'll help you rethink those people in your life, or maybe it'll help you to take a look at something that you're doing, or maybe it'll do both so that you can end up becoming a better person.
Absolutely. So we are going to end our session. We hate to see you go, but where can we find you so that the people can learn more about you?
Well, you can find me at my website at www.imagineyourreality.com. You can find me you can certainly find me on Facebook. In fact, if you want to check out my group, it's at facebook.com/groups/eccentric entrepreneurs. And you can also find me on your group, because sometimes I'm participating on there, commenting on people's stuff. So feel free to say hello to me on there if you're in the Spiritual Entrepreneurs Facebook group. I always love making new friends.
And you also publish books, right? So tell us about that.
I do. I've published a number of different books. I write books. I write books on spirituality, and I write books on business. A couple of recent books that I've written: Manifesting Wealth and Pop Culture Magic 2.0, and then also Who Trusts You? A Guide to Better Networking. So you can find those books online. You can find them on Amazon.com. You can order them at independent bookstores. And, of course, you can find them on my website as well.
Awesome. Cool. So be sure you check Taylor out. He has so much information, a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure if you can pick his brain for a while, you would be elevated. Your energy will shift. You'll feel so much better about yourself. I mean, think about this as he is somebody who owns it, right? And I know a lot of us, me included, I was so shy about me being spiritual. People are saying you're too spiritual, and I actually abandoned cart with what people say. So if you want to draw strength from somebody who has done it successfully, owning his power, owning his wealth, owning his story, owning his spirituality, then be sure to check him out. All right, so this is Elisen, and of course, as well, I'm the host and founder of the Spiritual Entrepreneurs. We're hosting more than 17,000 members there. You can definitely join us there and, check Taylor out there as well. He is a very, very active member there, a good and ideal member. And therefore, what kind of game he's playing. He's an A player for sure. So I look forward to seeing you again in another episode or somewhere in the internet family and internet world. This is Elise. Bye.